Welcome to What Do You Want to Know Wednesday. For this week, we spoke with one of our employees, Ben Abrams, who's a student at Suffolk Law School. We talked to him and asked him questions about what his experience has been like and how he's enjoyed law school so far.
My name is Benjamin Abrams. I'm a second-year law student at Suffolk University. So I took a bunch of criminal justice classes in undergrad just because it was part of the prerequisite stuff I had to take. And the degree that I was going for chemistry didn't really work out. It kind of strayed from where my interests were. And then one of those classes that I had to take as a prerequisite was taught by a law professor. And he really just was pushing people, towards law school and towards that kind of area because they just wanted more, more students for the law school, whether I didn't end up going to that school anyway. But one good professor kind of pushed me in the right direction. I chose Suffolk after I visited. It was one of the first law schools I visited. They were very up to date. They had moot courtrooms. The library was beautiful and massive, and it was the first school I'd ever visited. And so I thought that was pretty standard. The courtrooms, the size of the classrooms, the technology they offered, the size of the library. And then I went and visited 3 or 4 other law schools, and they looked like high schools. They didn't really have anything to offer that Suffolk didn't. Right, like nothing was as far ahead as they were, as up to date as they were. I don't want it to sound like I'm a spokesperson for the school, but I needed a change of scenery. I needed to move away from where I grew up, I think, and Suffolk allowed me to do that. It's kind of general at the moment. They push you through all different kinds of areas of law and types of practices just to kind of expose you to a little bit of everything. I haven't really found anything that I want to do, but what I've definitely found is stuff that I don't want to do, based off of classes and other experiences I've had through internships and speaking to other people who are more familiar in certain fields than I obviously am. Yes, the first year was a little bit more challenging for professors to do so with Zoom. They would call on people and, it's a little easier to not turn your mic on or pretend you have technical difficulties and stuff like that. But now that everything's fully in person, you got to be on top of everything. You can't come to class without have done the reading or without briefed the cases. You have to review the material constantly so that there's not a question you'll get asked in class that you won't know the answer to before you get there. Being organized, I think, has been really challenging for me. I used to not be a very organized person, but there are so many deadlines for whether it's, just submitting assignments on time or registering for certain classes or just having certain things into the university and to the school that they need to make sure that, my career and my education moves forward. I needed to stay on top of that. So I missed a first deadline and I had to reorganize the way that I was doing things. So now I have, funnily enough, way too many schedules, way too many planners, way too many, boxes to tick that I'm almost ticking those boxes more than I'm doing any kind of tasks or things that need to get done just to keep myself organized. It stemmed from me not having a set plan on what kind of law I want to practice. Like I said before, they kind of show you a little bit of everything so you can figure out what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And he does a lot of personal injury, family law, stuff like that. So that wasn't really a lot. There wasn't really much. That wasn't really stuff that I was exposed to my first year. And now I've been here for a few months now, and I've definitely gotten a lot of exposure to it. That's kind of, it's just because I didn't know if I wanted to or didn't want to do the stuff that he does. Over the summer, I worked as a judicial intern at Superior Court in Lawrence and in Salem for 2-3 months.
What was that like? What do you do for something like that?
So there were a couple assignments that I had, writing, drafting summary judgments and whatnot that were eventually handed to the judge that I was interning for, nothing I ever wrote was published or whatever. It was just more to give me the experience of writing stuff and writing motions and papers to be handed to clerks and judges and stuff like that, but also to lessen somewhat of a burden on the judge that I was working for. So he would use what I would submit to him as a template for what he would then go and change and correct and fix and then submit it. So my work was never verbatim submitted and used, but it was used as more of a template. I also just kind of followed him around, sat in on different court hearings, different types of trials and jury selection. I learned more in those 10 weeks just being in and around the court system than I had in the first year of law school. And that's not to say that the law school has not taught me anything, but there's only so much you can get from what you read out of a textbook or a case book as opposed to how it's actually applied, right? Like you can't, you can understand how things work theoretically, and you can watch videos and do whatever to make sure that you get how it works when you get out of law school and you start to practice, but none of it really starts to make sense until you're doing it and you're actually experiencing what's going on, whether it's here at DiBella Law Office and the deadlines and the filings and the discovery and reading through medical records and just being very meticulous with certain things, and then whether you're at the courthouse and you realize the importance of the smallest things in dates, in filing deadlines, in just all the stuff that you're taught and that you read doesn't fully come full circle until you watch it and you experience it in an actual practice in a setting. You're never really going to know, but make sure this is a career you want to pursue. Make sure it's something that you want to do. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? That's what you tell people when things are hard, right? I'm in my second year and I'm 99% sure this is the career I want to go down, but life changes, life goes, things happen, but you can never be 100% sure, I don't think, on anything, but be as sure as you can be that it's a career in a field that you want to go into and do it for the right reasons.